The McRib was first introduced in 1981. It quickly amassed a cult-like following, and it's been in and out of McDonald's ever since. Every time it's released, people go crazy for it. I had a McRib one time years ago and I loved it, but I've been craving that sweet, tangy flavor ever since.
But unfortunately, McDonald's only brings it out when they feel like it. What if you could have the McRib anytime, anywhere? I'm Nicky Giovanni, and today, I'm gonna be recreating the McRib. The McRib is super simple. It's just ground pork in the shape of a rib on a hoagie roll with a couple of pickles and a couple pieces of onion. The last time I had a McRib was many years ago, and I haven't seen McDonald's carrying it since, but I remember how delicious it was. It had that amazing aspect of ribs coupled with that kind of sweet, tangy, delicious sauce that they make to go along with it. Today, I'm gonna press some pork into the shape of a rib to try to replicate that rib-like look of a McRib sandwich. And then I'm gonna go on to make that sweet, tangy, barbecue-y, honey-like sauce.
Finally, I've got my friend Dylan, a former McDonald's employee, coming by to determine if my version looks and most importantly tastes like the classic McRib.
All right, so I'll start by taking my ground pork here. Just have to season my pork up to try to give that McRib flavor. I know that it starts off with some simple ground pork. I'll add a little bit of garlic powder, followed by a teeny bit of onion powder, a little bit of salt, and a touch of pepper. And I think that's all the seasoning I need to kind of get that McRib taste, because most of that flavor is gonna come from the sauce that I paint over the top of it. And I'll quickly mix this up just to really get that flavor inside and all over the meat. It actually smells really good. But this bowl is so hot from the dishwasher that it's like cooking the meat already. That's fine. So now I'll take my sheet tray and I'm gonna press it into that McRib shape that we're looking for. So I just have to do something that looks relatively like a rib. McDonald's actually does a really good job at that. I'm basically just gonna press them down on this tray. I'm gonna try to get in that general size shape of this bulky roll. So I'm gonna make it a little bit longer. I think I need a little bit more meat on that. To me, it's a very strange concept trying to shape this ground meat back into the original form before you actually ground it, but I also kind of like it. This is about the same size now as my bulky roll. It's just pretty much perfect. And I know the meat's gonna shrink a little bit after it cooks, so I can make it even a little bit longer. I'm just gonna go ahead and take my finger and just make these big sort of rib-like shapes that McDonald's has. 1, 2. I wish I had the machine that does this. That would be really helpful. So I'm just gonna toss these in the oven at 425 for a couple minutes and then come back and put my glaze on. For the sauce, I'm just gonna mix together a bunch of different ingredients that I think will sort of perfectly replicate McRib sauce. I'm actually gonna go ahead and, this will be a good little trick here for some acid, and I'll use a little bit of my dill pickle juice. And then we'll go with a little bit of molasses. For those who don't know, molasses is burnt sugar, so basically I'm gonna get a little bit of that caramelized or extra caramelized sugar flavor in there. And then sort of similar to molasses, I'll get a little bit of barbecue sauce. That is gonna be where most of that McRib sauce comes from. I'll also wanna kind of still balance it out with a little bit of salt in there and maybe just a touch of pepper, because there's already some pepper in that barbecue, so not too much. I'll go a little bit of garlic powder in there as well. And then to sort of balance all of that sort of sour, I want a little bit of sweet. So I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of sugar, just a sort of splash of that. And when I put that on the McRib and bake it, it'll hopefully caramelize and give an even better flavor to this whole thing. And then just to give a little bit more acid, because it's that tangy, sweet sauce we're going for, I'm gonna go ahead and cut a lemon, and then I'll squeeze that right over my hand here and get a little bit of that juice in there. Keep in mind, I want the sauce to kind of be able to paint really easily over the top of the McRib and not fall off when I bake it. So I want to go for a consistency that's not too watery. I'll go ahead and just mix that up and see what I come up with here. That looks really good and it smells even better. Give that just a little quick taste, because you should always taste and season when you can. That's really, really good. So this is awesome. It's crackling, it's popping, it smells incredible. These actually look a little bit like ribs, and if I even paint off the bubbles that are forming on here, this one looks exactly like the McRib. This one is a little on the chubbier side. So now I'm gonna just paint this sauce right over the top of our McRibs. Now is when I want to get even more flavor on those, and I'll put it back in the oven to bake them to just sort of caramelize it and really solidify, kind of suck in that flavor into the McRib itself. So now I'm gonna quickly toast my bread, and that's just pretty easy. I'm just gonna cut these hoagie rolls almost all the way through, and then I'll be able to bend them open just enough that I can lay it flat and just get a little bit of that golden brown toasting that McDonald's has for their McRibs. gonna go ahead and just put my bulky roll right down on there. So my hoagie roll is nice and toasted right in the middle there, and that's exactly what I want. So my ribs look perfect. Again, there's still one that to me looks exactly right on the mark, which I'm super excited about. I'm just about ready to assemble my sandwich. All I have to do is a little bit of knife work here. Since I want these sort of thin cuts that they have on the real McRib, I'm just gonna go right down the line and just cut these nice little strips of onion that'll come out to be like this. I got these perfect little furls of onion that I'm gonna work with here. And last but not least, I have my dill pickle. Really thin slices right down the side of this. Like super flimsy thin cuts. I like thin cuts of pickles on different things because I just don't like that much of a really acidic pickly bite, and we already have enough acid in our sauce. So to put this all together, I'll put my sandwich down on the table here, and I want to take my McRib that actually looks nice, and I'll lay that right down in the bottom of the hoagie roll. Fits super well. I think I want a little bit more sauce because I think they just really load it up with sauce. So I'll put a light, tiny sort of glaze. This is our third coating of seasoning. And then last but not least, just a couple onions and pickles. So I don't want to overload us with onion, followed by just another light coating of our pickles. And I think that's it. I think we've nailed the McRib. I think they do a slightly better job, making those little rib bits jut out on the edges to have where the bones would be. But, I'm actually really happy with what I've done here. I've also done a really pretty job layering out my pickles. To me, this looks extremely appetizing. It smells even better. Yeah, this is a McRib I remember.
Wow, that's incredible. The bun is perfectly toasted, the sauce is incredible, the pickles are perfect, but Nick, I think you should have put a little more sauce because it would have been a tad better. I'm gonna take this with me.
I'm definitely pumped that the McDonald's expert, Dylan, loved my sandwich. Granted, I think there's a couple little things I could do next time to make this even more like the McDonald's McRib. Mainly, I think that has to do with the quantity of sauce. I'd also love to shape it a little bit better and kind of have those ribs jutting out a tiny bit more. And if I do that, I think I've nailed the McRib.